we need to do a better job of thinking of the things that we had to go through as a people in a positive light. We definitely need to think of our ancestors and the commitments and the things that they had to do to make this country great as a positive. And we need to look at it from an owner standpoint. We are owners of this country. I hate when people say things like, go back to your country. No, this is my country. And
Right.
matter of fact, I claim more stake to this country
Then you
than
do.
you have
Right.
because we did this for free.
Mhm.
Okay. My people did this for free. We created this country for free. And then they're going to go to, well, we fought long and hard. No, and this is what I wanted to talk about too, is the reason why this country was even able to have a declaration of independence and become a free country with all this greatness is because of slavery as well. You start off why, right? With all these options and choices.
Me, I'm looking for substance. So if you can't come with a substance level of conversation, I have no interest.
Okay.
You black man taking a liking to how my lifestyle is living and how I'm going, man. You being intrigued, man. That's very humbling for me, man.
What would the US be like if slavery never existed to begin with? And I'm talking about specifically, primarily, the African slave trade.
Mm.
What are your thoughts on that?
I got a lot of thoughts. When you brought this up to me yesterday, I went headlong into some notes, and just to be clear, we're talking about the forced migration of Black people from Africa. So I'll approach it
Yes,
from
sir.
that get go. Um, I think it would be bad for the country. I don't think the American culture would be as rich. I don't think we would have much of the innovation that we have. We know about Charles Drew and his pioneering work as far as heart surgery. There's a lot of innovation. There's a lot of culture. There's a lot of spirit that would not be here if we were never forced migrated over here. We can look, and I hope I have the floor to kind of explore some different things.
Please. Mm-hmm.
First of all, would be economically. There would be millions removed. There would be millions less in the workplace. That would result in lost tax revenue by not having us here as a diaspora. There would likely not be black-owned businesses. Um, there wouldn't
Well,
be
there
in
wouldn't
this
be
country.
black owned
Yeah, there wouldn't
businesses.
be. There wouldn't be. Uh,
Not at
uh,
all.
and the main thing would be innovations. There would be millions of scientists, engineers, physicians, attorneys, entrepreneurs, and inventors from our people. They would have never made it over here, and we would not know how the country would look. I think we would be lessened by it. I think we would suffer a loss of talent, and it's not just about numbers. As far as cultural
Mm-hmm.
impact, some things that would not be in this country would be music, sports, films, literature, um, church tradition, family values that we once held on to that I think are integrated into American society, military history, and most importantly, and probably something that would affect more people than what they would realize if we were never here would be the civil rights movement and the rights they afforded not just Black people but other people. So all that would would be a loss. All that would be a tragic deficit to this country if we were never here. And at the same time, it doesn't mean that the issues that are categorically assigned to us as diaspora would change. It doesn't mean we wouldn't have the degradation of values. It doesn't mean that we wouldn't have a lot of the crab in the bucket thing. So it may not, it would definitely lessen the country, lessen America, lessen the history if we were not here. But at the same time, it wouldn't necessarily improve ours either.
I'm glad that you stated that too, man. You know, for me, I kind of feel like if Africans did not were not forced into slave labor in this country, I kind of feel like many of the things that we actually deal with in our current situation, such as those things that you just mentioned, low income, a history of, uh, let's say, fatherless homes, not being able to, gain our fullest potential because of certain situations that happened throughout our history due to slavery. I think we wouldn't necessarily have those problems, though.
Right.
I
Well,
mean,
yeah.
how would we have those problems if it wasn't for our government uh, uh, systematically kind of taking apart some of those family values that we have, some of
Well,
those inherent cultural aspects that are positive for African American people?
they didn't take them away. We gave them up.
Good point.
If you look at Islamic countries, slavery is still prevalent over there. They still have those problems, and even if we were in Africa, no country would have been a panacea. So while we may have not had those specific issues, we may have had a more malignant variation of them, but we would have had some issues to deal with just because we are not a monolith, no matter where we are. So I think
No,
that we would have still encountered some problems, but to which degree is negotiable. And the type of problems would be maybe a little bit different, but we still have issues as every culture has.
well, yeah, every culture has problems. I mean, but I think like in American culture, there's this idea within popular patterns these days is that African Americans primarily have these issues that we have, and it's all to do with us. Of course, you have to take accountability. Of course, you have to say that we gave up a lot of those things. We played right into the hands of
Right.
those people who created those situations for us. But at the same time, I mean, I think that due to that concept of us creating our own problems that's popular these days, there's a loss of accountability on the other side.
Right.
Um, not it wouldn't have been Wakanda. Let's say that.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
if it, I think that's what we are both saying is that yes, it wouldn't have been like a magical place. However, we'd have had our own self identity, our own accountability for our own dealings, even more so without, let's say, if Europeans never went to Africa for those reasons of wanting to purchase slaves from, servitude. There were slaves in servitude. It wasn't chattel
Mhm.
slavery, not by a long shot, that was happening in Africa. It was almost the same as Americans, not Americans, I'm sorry, but those early settlers when they purchased Irish people
Mm.
into indentured servitude. So it was the same type of concepts. But what I'm saying is that if it wasn't for Europeans coming over to Africa, maybe Africa would even be more prosperous as well.
Past,
Maybe it would be.
maybe,
You don't think so? Diamonds,
maybe,
gold,
maybe,
minerals,
maybe, but I can't.
all of the spices, all those things that came from Africa that were exploited and taken all around the world. I mean, Africa would definitely have more of a GDP, more of an offering to the rest of the world.
Maybe because Africa has its own issues. And I think one thing as Black people, maybe we need to look at is that while our challenges and our struggles are unique to us, they're not exclusive to us. So, I think it could have possibly been better, but with so many different variables just in geopolitics and geopolitical issues, I can't say if we were over there, the GDP would be higher. I can't say that because I don't know. But I do think that this country would have been lessened greatly,
Oh,
greatly.
a
Yeah.
100% this country would have been lesser. And I think that many of the industries that profited from slavery, such as the banking institutions, insurance companies,
Right.
um, uh, definitely those two would have taken a major hit because I mean the banking institute was basically derived around slavery at that time,
Right.
and the insurance companies profited off of insuring those slaves. And now we still have many of those companies. Of course, the names have changed to some degree, besides like Wells Fargo, Chase, and other companies like that still hold on to those names. Those would have not existed to me. I don't think they would have existed in this form at all
No.
because many of the wealth that was gained by this nation to become the number one economic power throughout the whole entire planet was due to slavery. The total profit that was made from African American slavery. And many people have said that that was in the 200 to 300 trillions.
Right.
And when you look at the labor, the free labor that African Americans provided to this country, and that was it was estimated to be at its lowest $14 trillion. So when we're talking about free labor, $14 trillion worth of labor that was invested in slavery. Of course, when you think about that, $200 to $300 trillion doesn't seem that far fetched. So when you take that away from this country, where does this country stand? Where would America be without that $200 to $300 trillion?
I think
Where will we sit? Where will we sit as a world power?
I think we still be in the same spot. I think that while we serve a sizable chunk of what make this country great, I think there's enough to overcome the deficit. It would not be easy, but I think the country would be fine. I just think it wouldn't be as free as it is if it were not for us, if it were not for our troubles and the things that we as a people, when we were united, seemed like were able to help afford ourselves and other people.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think the country would have been a trailer park if we weren't here. Just
No, I
like I
don't.
don't, yeah, just like I don't believe that we
Mm-hmm.
would have necessarily been living in a utopia if we were all in Africa. So it kind of
Yeah.
goes both ways, you know. It really does. But you know, the thing is, if we were not here, wow, I'm just thinking now, just all the things we would not have
It's so
culturally.
many things to
Right,
think about, though.
right. It is because it's a deep dive, and it I hope that people take this broadcast and this podcast and think about the things that do make us as Black people great and things that do make America great and try to
Thank you.
integrate those and try to get to a point of healing instead of being so divisive. I'm not against reparations at all. I've never said I was
Okay.
against them, but it's just, to me, it's kind of like that's kind of trying to like trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube, and
Mm-hmm.
logistically that would be a nightmare. You know, so
Well,
I'm not saying that those that have a plan for reparations shouldn't present them to policymakers
mm-hmm.
and try to explore that. I'm just not going to wait on it. But our
Right.
contribution to this country is it was born in blood and pain and scars, and
Mm-hmm.
and we have to be cognizant of that. And let's not think that we're the only ones that know that. I deal with a lot of white
No.
people. I deal with a lot of people of other cultures that are learning over the past couple of years of what we have sacrificed to make this country great, and they acknowledge that. The thing is, do some of us acknowledge that? We still have that. How can I put this nicely? Even if we were in our own country and it was predominantly us, we would still have that segment of society that we all know about that brings us down, that brings down and diminishes our glory. So we would still have those type of things. So a lot of things inherent to us aren't necessarily going to disappear because we weren't here or because we
No.
weren't.
No.
Yeah, yeah.
I
But I
mean,
say
I mean,
I
let's.
just don't want people to think that my concern is with this topic. I don't want people to think, well, we were never over here, we'd be great. Not necessarily. We could have been
I,
colonized by another country. We could have
I don't think
colonized
that's.
other
Yeah.
countries. Yeah, all those
Yeah. I
things
don't
could
think
happen.
that's the
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's the point at all of this exercise right here,
Right,
man. I
right,
think that, and I think that one thing, and I think if people think like that, then maybe you are listening with the wrong ears, or maybe you should turn this off if that's what you're thinking.
right,
That that we were just going to be rulers of the world after that. No, not at all. Every culture, every peoples on this planet has its place,
mhm,
but without one culture or one people trying to take advantage of another, you never know what situation would be in. But I would say that it would be nice if we did not have the conversation about reparations. It would be nice to show reparations through appreciation, if that
right,
makes sense. And I
right.
really feel
Definitely.
like a lot of people, us included, we need to appreciate, number one, we need to appreciate our contributions to this country. And we also need to align ourselves with the thought process of ownership over this country.
Right,
We share a great, and look at us, we're 13% of the population. And think about the magnitude of our cultural impact, of our historical impact.
right.
Our blood, sweat, and tears made this country what it is. Our ancestors' blood, sweat, and tears
Hmm.
made this country what it is. And we cannot walk away from that point as a Black people. But with white people, I really feel like many white people, especially these supremacist mindset people, they need to get off of it, because if it wasn't for African Americans, this country, you wouldn't have the lawnmower, you wouldn't have the cell phone, you wouldn't have had so many different things that make you, I mean, hell, we got people networking on cell phones against black people, and black people came up with the mobile phone, or a black person came up with the mobile phone. I find that quite ironic that
That's
you are
true.
conspiring on a device that was made by a black person. We need to come together. And I think that this topic is one that needs to be explored, because all of us need to come together, especially the immigrants that come to this country that have came recently, right? We have African people who come over from overseas, and they feel like some reason that they're over us, that they are higher on the totem pole. No, the only reason why you were allowed to come over to this country is because of the fight that we put in during civil rights.
Right.
There would not be Asian people in this country. There would not be Hispanic people in this country. They wiped out the Indians. Our persistence and our ability to be culture drivers, despite what we went through, that is where our power rests at as African American people of African descent, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and while it is ironic and somewhat amusing that you have many white supremacists using cell phones to basically denigrate us, we have to be careful too about black supremacy, which is something I've noticed in the past year that has come up, which is just as evil, is just as racist, and just as insidious. And yes, we still do sometimes maintain control of the vehicle as far as cultural norms, societal norms, but due to divisiveness with our people, a lot of the times when we're driving the car, we're running it off the road. We keep hitting speed bumps. Those things keep happening. So in terms of reparations, I definitely agree with you. I just think it would be better suited to be proposed in terms of tax incentives, programs to help small black businesses and large black businesses. I think that's more in the spirit of reparations than, say everybody getting a check, something like that. I just don't see it that way. But to me, that would be more beneficial long term in terms of reparations. And who knows, somebody may come up with a good plan for reparations. Who knows? I may just do one for fun just to see what people think. But we
that would be a good show.
Yeah.
We should create our own reparations bill.
I would do that
on this show.
And you know me, I will start on it as soon as we get off this call. But I think that's an interesting discussion, because it seems as though the past few years, the talk of reparations has accelerated. I no way think that's a harmful thing. I think that's a good thing, but I think we need to embark on that with some prudence, with some foresight, with some realistic notion, and in a tone that's going to get those policymakers to actually listen to us. I think if we come in with too much rhetoric, I think if we allow the wrong people to represent us in those endeavors, it will never get off the ground. But there's a way to do things.
Yeah, I think the big thing is that if we were going to have that discussion, one, we have to take the emotion out of it, and we have to come with the numbers.
Right.
Because oftentimes when we do this, we get these people who usually they come from academia and African American studies. They're I would say philosophers. They are PhD holders, just very high up there in the educational areas. And instead of coming with the logic behind reparations and how reparations would benefit American society, they oftentimes come with the rhetoric of the past,
Right.
The slave, the chain breaking, and the performative things when they're standing in front of Congress and trying to create bills and trying to talk about this stuff. They go into the exploits of it instead of sticking to the facts and the numbers. And I think that's harmful to the discussion to begin with.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, this is very interesting for a lot of different, every time we talk about this stuff, like things just keep popping up in my brain,
Yeah.
And honestly, one of the things that keeps popping up to me is slavery and the reasons for it to begin with, such as, tobacco, sugar, cotton, rum, all of these different things that were products for our GDP, our economic growth, right? These were the
Right.
things that were being pushed out into the world that were made and manufactured in America. But the thing that keeps popping in my brain is this. So you've had these people who come to do this experiment in America, and they needed this forced labor, this free labor. One of my theories is because since you already had these wars with the Native American people and basically pushed them westward, and a lot of those Native Americans didn't want to show the early settlers here how to do crops, how to grow things. I have a theory that one of the things that happened during African American servitude was actually due to our, think about it, in Africa, we can grow anything. If we can grow things near the equator in drought filled lands, and we invent irrigation and things like that, I really think that slavery was necessary in teaching Americans, early Americans, how to actually grow crops, how to actually maintain those fields and pastures that we were working for free. So I would even venture into thinking that without slavery, many of the lands in this country would not have been able to be cropped, correct?
Oh, no, exactly. The manifest destiny would have taken a lot longer if it were not for Black people in any regard. And I think the thing is, like, what we're doing, and one thing I'm very respectful of you for doing, we're starting to get away from the historical and the trauma narrative. Because the thing about history, one thing I want to do, I will research slavery in other parts of the world throughout history and kind of juxtapose our situation with other situations to give me more insight. But, I think some people get lost in history and they stay there because it's comfortable. And we need to do two things regarding our history and civil rights and slavery. We need to honor that, but we need to take accountability and start looking forward. Okay, we went through this. How can we use our experience to garner a better future, not only for us as a diaspora, but for all people, and be a contributing part of this country more so than what we have been. I just don't like the fact that a lot of people that I see that bring up slavery bring it up as far as, okay, I want to hate white people and that's it. How can you take what we went through and transpose it onto something that's going to benefit you? That's one of the tenets of recovery, which I embarked upon, is you take the
I
bad
agree.
things, you take the trauma, and you have to build something off that foundation. Otherwise, you're just still in a hole. And I think that's something a lot of us get stuck into.
Yeah, well, I don't think that all African Americans go into it. I really
Nah.
agree with the Republican point that
Right.
um, these colleges, right, and
Mhm.
these professors who, they're paid to consistently write about the same topics, the same ideals, right, with African American history or any history.
Right.
I think that they contribute to African Americans feeling as though we are not free or feeling as though we don't have opportunities, because
Right.
we're doused with this information all the time about what we don't have versus what we need. And to me, I feel like anybody, or what we do have, and I really feel like that academia, those people who are managers over these people, should maybe step in sometimes and say, hey, you wrote 14 books about the pain that African Americans have went through. You keep layering over each piece, bit, and part of it. But why don't you write something about what African Americans have and our prosperous nature and the things that we have done correct, instead of
Right.
always focusing on the negative? So I do hold that against many of these college institutions for allowing history to stay the same. But also on the flip side, we have on the white culture side, there's in colleges now, there's a reimagining, of history, of its in and of itself, right? Where you
Right.
are and that's always happened. Because that's really the flip side of the coin, is that the reason why those people are writing those things in colleges is because there was not enough history and accountability that was explained in textbooks growing up. I remember in kindergarten all the way up through fifth grade, all the way up through high school, the pages about African American slavery, 1 or 2 or 3 pages at the most. And then we began to go off into the greatness of this country, and we didn't focus on slavery and what other culture and what we could learn from slavery, right? For other
Right.
cultures. And, so I mean, if you want to repeat history, then don't learn it, right? I mean, don't learn
Right.
it the way it's supposed to be learned. So I do hold that accountable. I just think that these people now are reimagining history, and that is equally as wrong.
Yeah, and it's worse now. The reimagining of history, and you are exactly right on that. It's so much worse now because now we have access to media more than we ever had
Mm-hmm.
before. We have so and I always complain about this when talking about political issues or anything. People, where you get your news from is what you're going to take in, and
Right.
also, we all know the classic notion of history is written by the winners. If the
Mm-hmm.
if let's say Hitler prevailed in World War II, whatever we know about the Holocaust, it either would not exist or would look drastically different. So
Yeah.
we have to keep that in mind too. A lot of the history that we're taught is dictated by those who won. Now, one good thing I can say about social media is that in terms of history and news and information, you have more sources so you can better parse it. But I think we really need to learn our history, but look at it in the lens of, okay, what can I do today using what we had before? How can I help
Right.
those scars scab over to help us? Because it just seems like we just keep picking at the same wounds and letting it bleed and bleed. And now it's getting to this thing of where, you know, black folks feel like it's okay to be racist and do this and do that. And I hate hearing the argument of, well, this what they do. Well, here's the thing. You don't always win a battle by imitating the tactics of your enemy either.
Mm-hmm.
So,
That's
that's
true.
the important thing.
That
So,
Yeah, no, I mean that's a very valid point. And you are correct that many of us feel scarred by the history of this country, and instead of turning that into something like our recent ancestors did during civil rights to make the country better, now it's just a blame game and a tear fest and being upset, angry, mad, frustrated, racist, bigoted towards other peoples and primarily white culture when I think it just goes back to the point that we need to do a better job of thinking of the things that we had to go through as a people in a positive light. We definitely need to think of our ancestors and the commitments and the things that they had to do to make this country great as a positive. And we need to look at it from an owner standpoint. We are owners of this country. I hate when people say things like, go back to your country. No, this is my country. And
right.
matter of fact, I claim more stake to this country
Then you
than
do.
you have
Right.
because we did this for free.
Mhm.
Okay. My people did this for free. We created this country for free. And then they're going to go to, well, we fought long and hard. No, and this is what I wanted to talk about too, is the reason why this country was even able to have a declaration of independence and become a free country with all this greatness is because of slavery as well.
And I don't get it. Why?
Do you want the truth or do you want, what kind of answer do you want? The truth, of course. Here's the truth, okay?
You said yourself, like, it's more about substance than
Literally my everyday life when I wake up, the things I go through, the things I do, I'm definitely finna start streaming and giving y'all the rawness, man.
The thing is very real. It's real, but the thing is, people who do this for real.
It seems that we only come together when it's something negative. Let's try to do something positive. I think we need to get back to more of that instead of the reaction to something.
All y'all come at you and sit your hands down. Let me tell you what's wrong.
They don't think they need it.
You begin to start understanding like this is what I like, this is what I want. You start because
Yes.
might I add that the French and Spain would not have came to this country to help the early American revolutionaries win the war against Great Britain if there wasn't an incentive for the free labor that was being given to this country by African Americans. And what I mean by that is there was an incentive. The sugar crops, right? All the things that I talked about that was grown down in the South was a reason why Spain and France stepped in. That was because they wanted to protect their markets as well. Great Britain wasn't just coming to try to fight America for the land over here. They were coming because the financial growth of this country was at such a large amount to where their markets were becoming unstable as well. So to me, it was a war of corporate interest more than anything.
Right.
Tell me if I'm right or wrong.
You are right. And basically, a lot of people, and I wrote an article about this on American Thinker about colonialism. And a lot of times people vilify colonialism, and in certain aspects, it certainly should be. But this country would not be what it is if it were not that. If it were not for us being forced migrated, this country would not have the Constitution that it has. Many people that are not Black would not have the rights they have now if it were not for us and things we went through and things we innovated. So yeah, it's sort of a loaded question. It's just a lot that goes into it. What I would like to see less of is people having their racism and their racial trauma and our history codified to benefit those that really don't give a damn. I mean, it usually when we get into, I'll just call it like the Al Sharptons of the world. They love to talk about colonialism, things like that, but he does nothing but come around when it's time to make some money. He wasn't at the Carmelo Anthony thing, but he got a nice lick as far as these optics, and you see where he's at. So we need to get rid of the race baiters too that actually minimize our history because they use it to exploit and enrich themselves, to exploit us and enrich themselves. And I think in terms of other cultures understanding our history, I think that's where a lot of times it falls on deaf ears. I think more people, and just in my travels and in my work, more people are open to learning about our history because I'll go off into a little story. My son goes to a private school, my 16-year-old, and it's mostly white. And he says every Black History Month when they really get deep into Black history, because at this school they go deep. They go deeper than just the MLK and the Malcolm X's. He says he gets a lot of his classmates to say, I didn't know this. It's like, I did not know this coming up. So these young white kids saying, I never knew this. So I think with the manipulation of history, a lot of our problem is a lot of those that we may view as enemies or antagonistic, they don't know the history. And in many regards, we don't know the history. When I went to college and took an African-American history course when I was 20, it was radically different from everything I've been taught going up through elementary, secondary school. So, it really opened my eyes to the fact a lot of our history, we don't even know. We don't know.
Yeah.
And until we get into it and get knee deep in it and really learn and start to apply those lessons and do those things, we're not going to improve. We have to use our history to prove ourselves instead of just wallowing in it.
That's true. And let me clarify for people who are listening who might have been a little bit upset when I said that African Americans who are in academia, that they are purposefully writing, specifically about slavery. I'm not saying that they shouldn't, but what I'm saying is when you write about something, especially this is something about our people and the greatness of our people, I think that needs to be the focus. Right. Smaller about the pain and the strife and the struggles, more about the greatness of how we rose through slavery. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
Is that if we can anchor around our greatness, I mean, think about it. If the people who write about American history, white people, they don't write specifically about the pain all the time and the things that they had to go through. Those are small parts of history that they don't necessarily, well, not small parts of history, but small parts of their writings. The more that they write about in this country is about the greatness of George Washington, the greatness of Thomas Jefferson, the great wars that we fought. We need to talk about those things. We fought great wars in this country. Right. They're talking about civil wars. How many civil wars that slaves fight in this country?
Right. Exactly.
To fight for their way of life. Think about in Haiti, right? Overture, I think that was his name. Think about it. From one piece of paper. I mean, where's the movies at on that? From one piece of literature that he found that talked about the Statue of Liberty, I believe, or something that France sent to America about liberty. He took that and he turned it into a revolution, and he destroyed that whole island. He got every slave master off that island. Anyone, and he freed his people. That is what I want to focus on. We had our civil wars in this country. We
Right.
fought hard. Our ancestors fought every day. They fought to get out of bondage. And I think that that is the most impressive goddamn thing. That's more impressive than the Civil War. I mean, not Civil War, excuse me. That's more impressive than the War of Independence. That's more impressive than any great war that I've ever seen, because wars, oftentimes, those are two powers going at each other. And they have equal weaponry, right, to some degree. Of course, there's advantages on either side. But we fought these wars with sticks and stones in our minds. And we need to focus on that more than the thought of that we lost everything. We gained so much, and we gave everyone who comes to this country, even the women were being treated wrong by the white men in this country who founded it. We freed those women as well. We freed this country from its own bondage, and we need to focus on that.
And I like the fact that you brought up the point about history and who we study and studying our greatness. Every February, I do a couple of Black history pieces every year. I recently wrote one about Black conservatives in history, and as I was writing it and doing my research, I thought most of us don't know who these people are. Why? They don't want to. They don't want to. It's like they're almost hiding part of our history from us. Is that any Black person in history, dignitary or derelict, who did not go in with the status quo and a lot of the agendas that honestly the left is trying to push, they're hidden. How many people know about Thomas Sowell? Thomas Sowell is a mind that every Black person should at least have heard. We don't.
I need to know more about him. I'll tell you.
Right.
I do.
Right. I'm a huge admirer of Thomas Sowell. He just turned 96, Black intellectual, been speaking for decades, one of the most brilliant American minds, period. Cornell West. Mm-hmm. We don't pay attention to those. We don't spend our money on those. We don't want to learn about those. But if Tyler Perry put out a new Medea movie, we lined up. So a lot of that is on us. You can choose to be ignorant.
That is the truth, 100%. And I thank you for putting those writings out, and maybe we can have something about Thomas Sowell, because people do need to know more about Thomas Sowell.
Yeah.
I need to learn more about him. So that would give me the opportunity to catch up on his great legacy that, he is going to eventually leave behind. I would much rather know about him while he's here than have him be an African-American figure in our history that, gets brought up. So I want to jump into these 6 predictions that I came to from studying about African-American history in this country.
Right.
And let's say if that history never existed, I looked through a ton of YouTube videos. I looked through some I try.
Yeah, you're doing your research. Yeah, it don't matter what you do your research as long as you do it. I got you.
I tried to use more empirical videos to look up some information on this. And then I also did some readings through some scholarly sources as well. So I took the past couple days to kind of look through this. But what I came to was 6 predictions.
Okay.
And maybe we can discuss that. The very first one is, I really feel like without the Institute of Slavery, that U.S. financial markets, the growth, the land expansion that had taken place back then, would be reduced by roughly $200 trillion, of course, which we already talked about that. But I'm saying definitely the land expansion would not have happened in this country. And if you think about it, even that would have taken it away from the U.S. financial markets back then, and would actually affect the U.S. today. Because I really don't feel like we would have expanded West without the Institute of Slavery. What reason would it be to expand West if you don't have the ability to crop out West and you don't have the free labor to begin with? Mm-hmm. That's what gave the U.S. the power and the opportunity to connect with other countries and build forces that could actually move into those territories to fight Native Americans, to take Texas on, right? When Texas was it was a Hispanic leader during that time. I forgot his name, but he was in charge of Texas, and Texas was a part of Mexico. There would be no reason to do that. What do you think about that?
You're right. I think Manifest Destiny would have been a lot more difficult. And there are going to be some that are going to disagree with what we're saying, but it would not have looked the same, just as though westward expansion could not have happened in the way that it did without Chinese immigrants. They were over here, they came over here to help with the railroad. So, I mean, America has always needed that diversification to prosper. and now we're losing it. But I definitely agree with what you're saying. That westward expansion would have looked different.
Mm-hmm. And America would have never had the opportunity to align themselves with foreign powers if it wasn't for the Institute of Slavery, and also if it wasn't for immigrants in this country. And oftentimes that's so overlooked, right? I mean, it's so many immigrants in this country that have contributed to the betterment of this country. And it just amazes me how, especially when we're talking about white supremacy, it's this ideal, it's this concept that we've done it all by ourselves.
Yeah, and that's basically bullshit. Now, as far as the immigration, I'm all for immigration. I'm pro-immigration, but legal immigration. Illegal immigration hurts the country and hurts us as a diaspora. It actually hurts Black people. Illegal immigration does. But in terms of immigrants that have contributed to this country, that's definitely known. But like I said, I'll say this till the day I die. I'm all for legal immigration.
Okay. So point number 2, and I like the fact that you brought up slavery in other cultures and other races, because slavery started in 1619 in this country for African Americans.
Right.
Ironically, it started in 1612 for Irish people.
Right.
And people can say that, the Irish weren't slaves. They were indentured servants. And to me, that is absolutely bullshit.
Right.
They lost the war. They were overran by the British. They were placed into servitude. They couldn't even speak English. They had their own dialect in Ireland. Mm-hmm. So oftentimes when they were given these contractual agreements, they didn't even know what they were signing to begin with.
Right.
So that was used as a way to make them feel like they had some type of power and that they could actually one day make it out of indentured servitude, but actually they couldn't. They were given the same raw deal as African American peoples, and even more so, they were so bottom of the barrel as a people that African slaves were 5 times more expensive than getting an Irish slave.
Right.
And people don't realize that.
Yeah, and the thing about the Irish slavery in this country is that it's even more, it's just as nefarious because in Ireland, they were going through a famine. They had people dying. So that's why a lot of those people came over here, or some were brought because they were dealing with a famine. And to capitalize on the misery of another nationality is wrong. Mm-hmm. But if you look at immigration, immigration in the country, I think without immigrants, this country would not exist, for one.
Yeah. I just think that can't... Yeah, I just wanted to hold on to that point, though, because I think that can't be overlooked. Mm-hmm. There were slave owners of Irish people who actually didn't buy those Irish slaves for work alone. They actually bought young men and young women as young as 6 years old just for their pleasure. Right. And that was well documented. Right. They took the women. And here's the funny thing. That's why I think Irish and Black people, we should maybe sit down at the table sometimes and have a solid conversation, okay? Mm-hmm. Because we have a lot of mixed people in our culture, right? And a lot of those mixed people are of Irish descent for good reason, is because the American slave owners would actually buy the Irish women at a market, right? Just the same as Black people at a market. They would pick them in at a market. They would be in chains. They would be in cages. And they actually bought those women for the specific reason of breeding them with African slaves so that they could create a race of, so they could create their own. So like this, it's like if I buy puppies, right? And I hate to put people towards animals, but if I buy 2 animals, and 2 different animals, and I blend, or the same, or different, whatever species, but the same, they can mate. I mate those animals together, and I'm doing it for the purpose of selling those animals. And then all of a sudden, the government steps in and says, hey, no, you actually have to buy those animals from us. You can't create those animals. That's exactly what happened, which is why Irish and Black people stopped being mated together, is because the government had to step in because they were losing economic power because these slave owners were buying these women and interbreeding them, were breeding them with African people and creating their own slaves. And the government had to step in and say, absolutely no. So if you move forward into history, then after that, they started blending Irish people into white culture, right? After that, and it wasn't because they needed white people. It was just because they thought like, hey, if we start to pick these Irish people up and move them up the ladder and making them a part of white culture, now we have more power. And I mean, it's just, so my thoughts was this: Irish slaves would be the main labor force in this country outside of African slavery.
Right. Correct. Especially up in the Northeast, where a lot of them went and they formed their own ghettos and things like that. And I think this is a beautiful point. I think we as Black people need to try to learn more about other cultures' history. And I think if we really did that in earnest, we'd find that we are more alike than we're different. And
Absolutely.
like I said earlier, our struggles are definitely unique to us, but they're in no way exclusive.
No, not at all. Not at all. And it's funny, when we talk about Africans back then and how low they were on the society's totem pole, to say, the people who came over to this country in Great Britain, they were low on the totem pole.
Right.
Great Britain didn't want them; they were undesirable.
Yeah, they were the debtors. They were the criminals. They were the ne'er-do-wells that came over here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they built something great off of that. And I don't see why we can't do this. Or why we're not endeavoring. I'll put it this way. It disheartens me that more of us don't have that mindset. Not to stay in the situation that you're in, but to try to get to a better situation. I think that's why you have a civil war in the Black community right now. It's mostly right now that I'm noticing it's Black leftists against Black conservatives right now. I mean, that's really what I see, and I deal with it every day. Okay. And until we get to the point where we can agree to disagree, we are not going to go anywhere. But once we can have those discussions, which I hope won't take long, then we can meet with our Irish brothers and talk about their struggles, and meet with our Asian brothers, meet with all people, and try to get to where we unify, because we're not going to do it alone.
Yeah, and then we need to meet with them Italians and get them in line too, because they weren't far off the total. They weren't high up there either. Okay, point number 3: U.S. exports would be severely reduced to livestock and standard trade exports, such as cotton, tobacco, rice, and rum. So what I mean by that is, basically, this country would be, I would maybe compare it to, let's say, Czechoslovakia, or one of these other white cultures that are not powers, are not economic powers. I just think that everything would be severely reduced in this country if this country would even exist at all.
If nothing else, I mean, and you can say this, I'm not saying it would be totally decimated or would not exist, but the textile industry that this country fed itself on for many, many, many years would not be what it was if it were not for us.
And I really think that that Great Britain would have actually overran those early revolutionaries, because they would not have been able to make trade deals and be able to align themselves with other countries because they have no economic power. It would be kind of like the same thing that is sort of happening in Ukraine. The more that the West pulls out of supporting Ukraine, the more Russia has the ability to come in and take more land. So I really feel like Great Britain would have actually came back over and won those wars, because there would have been no French alignment, no Spanish alignment, and no Portuguese alignment. I think the Portuguese people actually supported the revolution as well. But I just really feel like this country may not have existed without that, because for a while there, remember, in the French and Indian Wars, the Indians were actually doing pretty goddamn good.
Yeah, of course. And the thing is, but I think the only problem with that I don't want us to fall into is to, and I'm glad we're actually talking about our history, because you know I'm learning some things from you and vice versa. But know,
For once.
what, but once we kind of can stop our history from being codified and make a step.
Right.
It feels like a lot of times many of us are trying to drive by looking in the rearview mirror.
Right.
At some point, yeah, you glance back every now and again to get reference of where you are, but we got to start moving forward, and it's like that's where a lot of us get stuck.
Yeah.
We got to get out of our emotions. We
Yeah. And we
got
got
to
to
do
wake
that.
up.
Yeah,
We got to wake up every day. And when we walk out of our homes, wherever that home may be, we got to look up and be like, this is my damn country.
right.
This is I have a place here, and nobody can push me away from here. I will fight for this country. I will defend this country. I will defend my legacy as an African American person who came from slavery, and our families fought all the way up through that. And here we are right now. We need to be definitely happy and appreciative of our ancestors' sacrifices and our contributions to this country. Point 4, I think we kind of cut over already, because the second point was the U.S. would eventually fall to a lesser position and would no longer be a major world power. I really feel like Germany would probably be number 2.
Or Russia.
If not number 1.
Russia number 3.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And if those countries would not have benefited from whatever opportunities that they had, you could eventually see a China. You could see a India. You could see all those countries weren't doing too bad either back then. So it was the connecting of all of those countries that came together for the Institute of Slavery that I think benefited those races to actually be, those countries to be world powers right now. I'm probably gonna have to do a little editing here because my brain is not as dense as yours is. So the thoughts just kind of fly out sometimes and I got to catch them. But so point number 5, with less economic power, westward expansion would be limited, like we discussed. I really don't feel like there would be a reason to create a United States. Maybe it'd be just the 13 colonies. Maybe it'd be just a few more territorial lands, but past the Mississippi, all that place would be either a part of the Hispanic culture or even Native American.
Right. Definitely. I mean, I'm in Texas, and there's parts of Texas that are more Hispanic than anything. So
yeah.
If that's any indication, you can imagine what it would have been like if Manifest Destiny had been inhibited. And by not having us here, and you can argue and nitpick and about the degree to which it would be affected, but it definitely would have been affected.
Yeah. And then just the last prediction that I had was, without slavery, the U.S. would not have leverage with France and Spain. And if you think about it, African Americans at the time were 1/5 of the population.
All right.
That's kind of that. Math is rough, but that's somewhere where we sit right now. But that's a large portion of the population. Yeah. And if Spain and France wouldn't have came in to support the Institute of Slavery, I could see possibly some very good rebellions would have taken place, which could have turned into something more.
Definitely. The thing is almost like talking about if we were never brought here, it's almost like science fiction, because there's so many divergent possibilities. You can look at every industry, every iota of American culture. Without us here, it would have been affected. And some people, I'll be honest with you, I'm a conservative, but I know full well there's some people that don't want to believe that, but that's true. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm going to buy into the ideologies that many of us hold on to, because I think in the end, they're destructive. But hopefully by learning history, not that people become more conservative, but they become more aware. And we can be more solutions oriented about the things that ail us.
Well, you heard it first, y'all. George P. Brooks with some amazing commentary on what would life be like without African Americans, primarily what would life be like without the Institute of Slavery and the impact that it had on the growth of the United States and for what it is right now. So, man, George, I really appreciate you having this conversation with me. I think it's progressive. I think it's going to help.
Yeah, I hope if people are open to listen, it'll help, But I'm just telling you about my adventures online lately. There's going to be a certain segment of people that no matter what you say, how you dress it up, they're going to be steeped in their emotion, and they're going to want to hate white people and hate America and all that, no matter what you say. So if we can kind of jettison those people, just understand that we can't reach everyone. Everyone's not going to agree. But to those people that want to hold up slavery is today, even though they've never been a slave, they don't know any slaves, and let that be their linchpin let that be their identity, let their race be their religion. I mean, you can go anywhere else in the world if you want to. If you hate America, why are you here? No one's keeping you. But to those of us that want to build this country that we are invested into, that we help build on our backs and with our blood, hey, let's be more solutions oriented and have some dialogues and try to prove things for ourselves and everyone else.
Well, I'm going to end with: don't leave the country, stay your ass here, and change your perspective because we need you. Okay, all right. So get your mind right. Get your mind right. Get your shit together. We need you in this country, and you have a place in this country. All you have to do is say, "I have a place." And it'll be there. Okay. So, man, George, thank you again, man. Fascinating conversation. And to the guests out there who are watching, please like and subscribe. Go down in the comment section. Tell us what you feel about this conversation. Don't just be quiet. Don't be a weirdo. Okay. I hate lurkers.
Right. Don't be a lurker,
stop viewing. Yeah. Stop viewing and not saying anything. That's weird. That's like standing in the corner looking at a girl who you like. Okay. So, man, George, there we go, man. Next conversation. What did we talk about that we said we're going? Oh, okay. I think me and you were going to draft a reparations bill together.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah, that'd be interesting. I got some interesting ideas on that. Might piss some people out, but I don't care.
All right. That's what's happening next. Y'all have a nice night, and thank you for being a part of the Club Geneva Show. And if you want to get a hold of George P. Brooks, he's on Facebook. He's on. Tell him I'm going to up.
Okay, I'm on Facebook under George P. Brooks. I'm a contributor to American Thinker, which is one of the world's largest conservative editorial venues. I have a Substack with over 150 essays. I'm city president for Turning Point USA. So I got a lot of stuff going. But if you reach me on Facebook and want to collaborate or speak, just find me there, and I look forward to speaking to you.
All right, well, we'll close out like that. Thanks, George, man. Have a good night.
Thank you. Stay blessed.
Yep, you too. Bye.